Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Satsang on a beautiful sunny day in Seattle. It's the third sunny day in a row. I have been out, everyone enjoying it, because prior to that we had like pretty much a full solid 2+ months of clouds and rain. A little bit of sun would pop out and then I'd get hit by hail or something like that. 3 days in a row. It's been really marvelous. So welcome everybody. Welcome wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it might be. It is wonderful to be here with you once again. I don't know how long I've been doing this for now, this regularly every Sunday. But it's been a while. I think it may be 4 or 5 years. Anyway, it's been really gratifying. It's been really wonderful to see the growth of the beings that have shown up and partaken of it, to see the spiritual maturity emerging, to see the level of questions. It's not that the newbie questions and domestic questions don't come up, they do, but I'm seeing more and more of the deeper questions come up, and even several people going, I can't find a question. Good. Which is very good. I felt kind of inspired yesterday. This is the first time I can remember that I actually decided on a topic anything other than a minute before, as I was just setting up the live stream and putting it out there, scheduling that was going to happen. But it really hit me hard yesterday about the direct path as approach to, once again, do my best to clarify this path, to clarify what this approach to non-dual inquiry is. And unlike some, which are just really focused on the mind, this is focused on experience, direct experience. That's why the name direct path. You are looking directly at your experience and nothing else. You're simply looking at the totally subjective, but it's also objective experience of your own being. As you've heard me point out many, many times, human knowledge is based on it is descriptive. It is modeling. It is drawing pictures, whether that be as graphs, whether that be as images, whether that be as language, whether that be as story, or whether it be as mathematics. It is a model of reality. It is not reality itself. And while it's necessary for us to have those things in order to communicate. And the more refined we want the communication to be, the better those models have to be. But we forget that they're only models. And the model is always the subject-object relationship. I, from my perspective, am examining something other than me, and based on previous language and memory and associations and all the things that I have at my disposal, plus mathematics and art and all of that, I attempt to describe it. And through that act of description, I attempt to know the reality of it. Now, this is classical analysis. It goes back to the Greeks. The early Greeks weren't even the Greeks yet. They were the Ionians. The idea of classical analysis, that you learned what something was by examining it closely, taking it all apart, going down to the details. And it was the Greeks who came up with the term atom, which means the smallest particle, which, as it turned out, what we call the atom was not the smallest particle, and it kept on going. Right? But this was the model, and it still is. For all intents and purposes, for practical purposes, this is what we do. We describe everything, and you as an individual can describe everything in terms of your experience of it. It looks red, it's big, it's located over there, it has these kinds of attributes, everything in a catalog of attributes. Well, that works everywhere, even given the limitations of it, right? Because obviously I'm limited by my perceptual mechanism, I'm limited by my conceptual mechanism, I'm limited by what I can see and experience of it. Hence science has dug deeper and deeper and deeper, trying to get to the reality behind what we are experiencing, trying to come to some place where we can actually see something as it actually is, and not just how we perceive it. And it's gotten so small that what we're describing can't be seen. And so we have models, mathematics being the key one, to get some kind of a picture as to what it actually is. Because the fact of the matter is, our perceptual ability cannot see the reality of it. We simply can't do it. And so instead we have theories and ideas and concepts and images and diagrams and mathematical models that point to the reality of it, but are never the reality of it. Now, the big question is, right, does that work? Does that whole approach work if the object that I'm trying to understand, the reality I'm trying to touch, is myself? Well, they've substituted in the brain for that, right? Okay, so we're going to study the brain because that's where consciousness comes from. And that's been a real can of worms. And in fact, there's many scientists who recognize that consciousness is something else. That there's this mystery about the simple fact that I am aware and I know it. I know I exist. This is where non-duality and the direct path puts the stake in the ground. Okay, let's start with that. Instead of building models and theories and ideas and stories or parables, right, let's see if we can go directly to the actual reality itself. Now, this is something that all the sciences and all the different models cannot do. They cannot get there. They can't go beyond the perceptual. And you can't either. So you can't know yourself as one thing knowing another. Because you cannot stand outside of yourself and look back and go, oh, this is what you can't do it, right? Because you do this and, oh, wait, I'm over here now. So how then do we know ourselves? Well, this is the direct path. What are you experiencing? So it's a very simple question. Do you exist? Let's start at the most fundamental thing, because if you don't exist, well, the rest of this is a moot point, isn't it? So let's start at the most basic thing that every human being experiences. And of course, you are experiencing. We don't have to care whether every human being is experiencing it. Are you experiencing it, right? What are you experiencing right now? I know everybody would be disappointed if they didn't see me taking a sip of my, well, this is green tea today, through my magic straw. Do you exist? Now, of course, you have to say yes. Because if you didn't exist, you couldn't hear the question, you certainly couldn't answer. I mean, you wouldn't exist, right? So, let's start there. You know that for a fact. Now, how do you know? Somebody tell you? Did they go over that in school? Did they give you a little checklist to, oh yes, I exist? Notice, this knowledge is direct. You need no intermediary, you need no lab coats, you need no petri dishes, you need no electron microscopes, you need no linear accelerators. You simply, oh, I am. Oh, I exist. How do you know? How do you know that? When you haven't, when nobody's told you, you haven't discussed it, you've known it forever, well, how do you know? This is the direct path. Oh, I just know that I am, directly. With nothing intervening, no intercessor or intermediary. Now some will go, yeah, okay, well, so what? But maybe some of you are going, wow, this is different than all other human knowledge. So yeah, that's what the big deal is. This is not human knowledge. This is not classical analysis. This is not material science. This is direct understanding. I know, and I know that I know. Now, let's examine that knowledge. Because it is knowledge, isn't it? Again, it's not subject-object knowledge. It's not the acquired knowledge of building models about experience. Because it's direct. You don't need a model. Right? So let's look at that sense of knowing. Another question I could ask is, are you aware? The answer I'm sure everyone will give me is yes. If they heard the question, the answer will be yes. Okay, I'm aware. So there's this, for lack of a better word, a quality, right, of knowingness, aware of my beingness. I exist and I know it. There's this quality there. Well, let's look at that awareness. And try to keep the attention not on what you are aware of or any thoughts about the awareness. Especially many of you who may have been involved in non-duality, it's a term that's used a lot. You may even have ideas as to what it is, but all of those ideas are also models, right? We're not interested in the idea of awareness. I'm interested in the fact that you are sitting here going, I'm aware. That's direct. That's real. That's you, right? The other would be speculation. And we have to use the word awareness, but forget the word and just be right there in the experience of being aware. Aware of being aware. Again, nobody told you you're aware. You didn't figure it out. Now, when did it start? Again, if you say, well, when I was born, that's a speculation, isn't it? Look only to the actual experience of being aware. And ask, did it have a beginning? Now we can look at this quite reasonably, because if it had a beginning and you're aware of the beginning, it meant you were there before you began, which means it wasn't the beginning, right? So we can rule that out. We can rule out, it's meaningless, right? Well, the other would be that I suddenly was aware. Right? I wasn't, and then I was. Well, how would you have any knowledge of that? In fact, in order to know if that were true, there would have to be something else that you had access to that was aware of you before it happened. Right? So you have to recognize that even the question, did this begin, is meaningless from the sense of it can't be answered. All I know is I am. And I can't find a beginning to it. Of course, turn around, look the other direction, and guess what? Can't find an end to it either. And this is the big question to come to. Starting from this position of I am, and I know that I am, is this awareness that is you, right? Of which you are completely aware. I am, and I am aware of being aware. Is it limited? Does it have a beginning and an end? Right? Is it localized? Does it have a boundary around it? Now, right now, I'm not going to give you the answers to those questions. This is the direct path. I've brought you to the place where your experience is direct. You are not relying on any theory whatsoever, any ideas, any concept, or any model. It's what you are actually experiencing, just by simply going, do I exist? Yes. Am I aware of it? Well, obviously. You really can't separate the two. I couldn't say I exist if I wasn't aware of the existing. And I certainly couldn't be aware of it if I didn't exist. So you see that they're not really two. It's really different ways of saying the same thing. And now, with your attention there and there alone, without any other reference point, that being the only fact that you hold on to, you pose that question. Does it have a beginning? Does it have an end? Do I have a beginning? Do I have an end? Am I limited? Am I localized? Is there more than one awareness? Which would mean I'd have to have some kind of a boundary around me. Do I have a beginning? Do I have an end? Do I have a border? This is the direct path inquiry. And you simply pose those questions and keep, and the mind will, of course, the habit of the mind will be giving you the models, will be giving you even non-dual speak, right? And you just put it all aside and base the inquiry simply on that which you know for sure. I am and I know it. That's the ground, right? That's it. My stake is here. This is all I know for sure. Which, if it proves out, should be enough to answer all the other questions. So hopefully that's been a helpful little discussion on this particular path and on the nature of the deepest kind of self-inquiry. And again, thanks for being here. And I'm going to head over to the questions now. I'm going to turn on this little device I have over here so I don't have to reach over to the computer because it's a little further away today. Oh, yeah. Mark Foreman. Is it Foreman or Farman? Foreman. Just want to get this message out there at the beginning, GP. I can never thank you enough for how your teachings have inspired and led me to the most profound understanding of just who, what I am. That's why I do it. Mark goes on. It then gets me to a place where I'm confused if I'm in a simulation or real. The place I end up with is, don't try to understand, you can't. Only marvel, enjoy, and let go always. I guess that's today's topic. I'm curious, though, what the G and P stand for. It could be Grandpa. Well, it very well could be Grandpa, because I am a grandpa. It still sounds funny coming out of my mouth. I'm a grandpa. Wow. Okay. G, P is actually my initials. My name is Gregory Paul. And I just started using GP because it was simple and kind of stuck. But now let me get to your question. Am I in a simulation or real? The place I end up with is, don't try to understand, you can't. Only marvel and enjoy and let go always. Well, you cannot suppress a question if it's come up, right? Say, never mind, it doesn't matter. Never mind, it doesn't matter. You'll find that the questions that really do need to be answered will persist. Ones that don't will fall away. And of course, what I was just talking about in terms of the direct path approach is the way to start to try to dismantle this. But I want to go into it a little bit more deeply. Right? So many different ways to approach this. Am I in a simulation or real? Well, let's put it this way. And unfortunately, it's become kind of cool and trendy and 5D to think this is a simulation. It really got into the popular imagination with the movie The Matrix, right? Which was a good representation, right? But it also didn't really have any conclusion. It became another superhero movie, right? Which was cool. I loved it, by the way. I really liked it. So let's just stop for a second and say, okay, simulation or real? How do I determine if it's a simulation or it's real? Well, what do you know for certain is real? Right? You are, and you know that you are. Right? Now that's as close to real as we can get, isn't it? I can have all sorts of speculations about this out here, right? this form and that form, this light over here and this light over here. I can have all sorts of speculation about it. Is it real? Is it not real? Is it a hallucination? Is it not a hallucination? Is it a temporary form and therefore not an absolute fact? Is it an appearance of something else? The answer, of course, to all of that is yes. It is just an appearance. It isn't an objective reality in itself. It's limited by my perceptions of it. Right? Okay, fine. Is it a simulation, which implies somebody on the outside has got me hooked up to machines, like in the Matrix, or it's an experiment, right? Or it's a computer simulation, as if the computer simulation could be self-aware, which is why I rule that out. Which is why I also rule out the possibility of artificial intelligence, that a machine will become sentient. It can't, because sentient is not a product of any kind of material structure. Okay? So, given all that, right, and even if it was a simulation, even if I was somewhere, right, I still know I am. And no matter how good the simulation was, no matter how good the robot is at appearing to be reactive and responsive and actually responding to the input and learning and growing and laughing and having relationships, it would be a simulation. There would be no sentience there that was having an experience. So if all of this is unreal, all of this is a simulation, okay, fine. Something's real. Right now, the experience you're having, sitting in the room watching me on the screen or whatever happens to be going on around you, could in fact be a total hallucination. You could be in an institution somewhere on medication. You could be asleep in bed on another planet, not even a human. But that doesn't change the fact that something isn't an illusion. There has to be something there to have the illusion. Whatever that is, it's real. That is the reality. That is the truth. That is the real me. So is this a simulation or is it real? Anything I experience is questionable. And so I say everything that I experience is not real. Only the experiencer is real. Because nothing can be experienced without an experiencer. Right? None of this can exist without me here perceiving it. Nothing can have existence without a perception of it. If you really ponder that, you'll see it's true. We talk about the universe as if it existed prior to consciousness, but that's all happening within consciousness. It's all speculation within consciousness, and it's more and more widely recognized that what we perceive as the universe, we have no idea what it is. Well, and of course, looking at it as if it was something separate and objective to myself, I'm going to be speculating about it all forever, right? So in my model, it's very simple. That which perceives, the ultimate perceiver, is real. Everything else isn't. Everything else is an appearance of what is real. Because behind anything that appears, there must be a reality. There must be something. And in the non-dual from the non-dual perspective, that the reality of everything that's perceived is you, the perceiver. You are what gives it its appearance, and therefore it reflects your selfness, your realness, your truthness, your truthiness. So, how's that, Mark? Is that helping you with that? Now, notice we turned it into a beautiful inquiry. You just don't have to say, don't try to understand. No, try to understand. The direct path is not a path of just, it's okay, yeah, later, never mind. It's not that. It's like, okay, is this, what is real? I mean, because your question really is, what is real? And this is the question we should be asking. I mean, it gets watered down through all these ideas about, the Matrix and, 5D and all of that kind of stuff. It gets watered down. We're still trying to find something real out there, right? But that question, what or who is real, well, that is the question that has to be asked. What is the reality to all this? There must be a reality, right? Even the strictest materialist scientist will say, there's got to be something there that is not an appearance of something else. Right? They would say, we're going to find it. We're going to find it. It's there somewhere. It's field or string or whatever. I say, you're it. Look, you say I am. I am what exists. I exist. And what you're looking for, the scientist is looking for, is that which is, not an appearance of something else. Well, that's me. I'm not an appearance of something else. Now, the difficulty with that is because we have been so educated with the I, that thought of I, to refer to the body. And so the mental model that we have, the mental construct we have of I, is the body and the mind and the beliefs and the history and all of this other stuff. But that's the thought I. That's the model I. Right? That's not the genuine I. Because even that could not exist if there wasn't something there to perceive it. Whatever is doing the perceiving must be the ultimate absolute reality. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Andrew Robinson, hello, sir. The direct path, intriguing. Didn't Nisargadatta say something like, I don't suffer fear or desire because I don't remember the past and I don't imagine the future. That's pretty direct. Yep, that's pretty direct. He doesn't suffer because he's completely in right now. He is completely aware of the actual reality that underlie everything else, and therefore for him there was no past. Those were just thoughts passing by, and there was no future. Because he didn't see existence or reality in terms of an unfolding of events. He saw it in terms of this moment only, and that I am that. I am that which is the changeless. I am the changeless. So of what importance is it to me that the change that appears within my perception, which is of course is what's going to happen, what appeared before, what will appear later, have no actual substance to them. They have no meaning. They have no importance. I have to create a sense of self that is an I, that has a vested interest in those, in order for any event to have any meaning or importance whatsoever. Otherwise, all events are nothing other than myself. And I'm not afraid of myself. I'm not afraid of my hand. I'm not worried about my hand. I'm not concerned. I don't think it's going to run off on me, because it's not an other. And this is where he lived. And you're absolutely right. I don't remember the past. That is, he does not have any connection to the past. Right? I know he had memories of the past because he referred to them now and then. But he was pointing to something way beyond that. It was just, there was no he that had memories. The memories included the one who experienced it, but for him, none of that was him. It wasn't that something he had experienced. It was a dream of the past, and the dreamer and the guy in the dream and all the conditions had no reality to them. There's nothing to remember because it's a dream. It never really happened. Right? It was experienced, but it didn't really happen. It was not real. It was an appearance. It was completely subjective. So, very direct. He was very direct. You see the films of him, and the things that he would say to people. Yeah, he was very direct. And it was his was the direct path. His inquiry was extremely direct. In his guru, when he first met his guru said to him, "You alone are. Give reality to nothing other than yourself." And he put all of it, he said, I believed him. I trusted him. And so I did it. Right? I puzzled over it. Right? Okay, I am. I know that I am. How do I know that I am? I'm all that there is. How do I, which is another way of saying, does this awareness, the sense of being, have a boundary to it? If not, then there's not another one. There aren't two lords. There aren't two awarenesses. There's only one. This awareness has no boundary. It means this awareness is the awareness. And as that sinks in, the sense of being somebody with awareness falls away, and being nothing but the pure infinite awareness emerges, just starts shining by its own light. And this is where you disappear. You are no more. All there is the one, and you are that one. Shoop. That's the awakening. Thank you, Andrew. Beautiful observation. Thank you for sharing that. Brent, Brother G, so grateful for you. Can you speak about samskaras? It seems to me that they are what is healed during inner reconciliation. Thank you, brother. I just bought some wonderful gunpowder green tea. Loose, of course. I just dump it in there and put it in the water. Ah, it's very good. Samskaras, also known as vasanas, also known in Buddhism as repository consciousness, also known as those pesky little buggers that get in the way. Well, you all understand what conditioning is, right? Which is really funny. I could say that now, conditioned responses, and everybody knows we're talking to. It's, we're talking about, and even experience can even identify conditioning, which is a lot of what I teach in inner reconciliation. You're not your conditioning. I heard that term in a psychology class I had in high school. Only time I've ever heard it. And I had no idea it actually applied to me. As Pavlov and, those kinds of things, and certain kind of tests with reflexes and things like that. But this is, I think psychology was like 1968 or 1969, something like that, right? So I had no idea it applied to me. Nobody did. It was just kind of this theoretical thing that people would talk about, right? Ring the bell and the dog salivated. It was much later when, wait a minute, this refers to everything. Everything is, oh my, and started looking at thoughts and feelings and emotions and began to sort all that stuff out. But now we understand it, right? Now I understand that certain reactions we have are programmed responses. They're conditioning. Now that knowledge all by itself is extremely powerful because it can begin to separate you from that sense of personal responsibility and, oh my God, I'm terrible, I made such a mistake, I'm a horrible person, and begin to connect you up with, it wasn't you, it was the way you were trained to be. It isn't necessarily who you actually are, who you were before the conditioning took place. And the particular conditioning that did take place was completely a result of the particular environment you were in. And so everything we identify as this is who I am, where it's actually conditioning, take that very same child, put it in another environment, the conditioning would have been completely different and you would have had a completely different sense of identity. Now, when you talk about inner reconciliation, it's the process I developed to transcend the conditioning. But what I found is it's not enough to just say, I was conditioned, I'm not conditioned, because that's too much in the head. Because all of this stuff is happening on the level of the body, or more subtly, the energetic body, you might say. And that helps me lead into what we're talking about, the samskaras and like. So when you talk about conditioning, we can all identify that. We can go back, we can pinpoint events in our lives, right? Mostly in childhood, where we had the kind of traumas and experience that kind of shaped our conditioning. They shaped the container we were in, which our little nervous systems then adapted to in order to stay safe. All right. That's within the context of this life, right? But without trying to get into the whole reincarnation and past life things, My direct experience has been working with people that certain things pop up that I can't pinpoint energetically. I can't find anything in this life that gave rise to it. And that's why I said moving into this level of the energetic. Right? Boy, I could give a whole class on the whole energy system and how it works. But I call it the energy system because it really is the level of extremely subtle consciousness. It was there prior to the birth of this body. Prior to all births, in fact. It is that energy that creates a new body. Right? These are the deepest kind of assumptions. An assumption that transcends simply the conditioning of one lifetime. Now, it's possible to have experiences that are so intense and so traumatic and so difficult and so consistent over a life that it can actually kind of merge into the energetic level and reproduce itself in the next life. Right? Those are the samskaras. Those are the vasanas. Right? Those are the little pesky little mofos that just seem to follow us no matter where we go. Now, at the essence of those, at the very essence of all of those, right, it may seem, oh my God, how am I going to ever eradicate all of those? I've got to go back through all past lives. No, you don't. You only have to worry about this one and this moment and what's happening in this moment. You don't have to go back all the way to, I don't know, when you were, I don't know, a serf under Genghis Khan or something. Thank God. We don't have to do that. All right. It all revolves around the sense of self, the sense of I. Who am I? Right? Because all of the vasanas and samskaras, all of the conditioning, right, are creating an I. And the only mistake we make, whether that be in this life and we identify with the conditioning, or past lives and we identify with the samsaras, is that we mistake the samskara for me. And at the root of it is one single energy, the desire to be something, the desire for form. Right? This is the lust after form. I want to be someone. Joseph Campbell beautifully describes the Bardo in a very simple way. The Bardo is the Tibetan model for the 49 days in between this life and when you get born into the next. That's their model. And there's a whole series of things that happen in between. And it all, at the beginning, there's this, it's light, it's beauty, there's this total sense of freedom. The whole past has just slid away. There's just this pure bliss of being. But in that interim space, if you haven't completely extricated and burnt up the seeds of the vasanas, within that state of bliss, something will arise. A desire to be will arise. Very subtle. And it will create all sorts of things. The desire will begin to cling. It'll begin to miss. It will begin to fear. I'm going to be alone. Now, the only way that I'm going to be alone could appear is if the I was separate from everything else. That is, a bounded I, an I that was in some way tied to the body. I am the body. I need a body. I don't have a body right now. I need a body. And little by little over those 49 days, at some point, the opportunity to let it all go and go into full awakening, right, gets completely absorbed and you begin to slide down. Joseph Campbell traces that out as going backwards through the chakras, which is a very interesting approach that he has for it, and very well worth taking a look at. But there's a point at which you simply begin to slide back down everything begins to converge around you. A world begins to appear again, and suddenly, I'm back. Now, notice that when death happens, this is gone. The body's gone. The conditioning is gone. It can take a little bit of time. What does time mean there, right? But little by little, the past let go of. I actually did a whole meditation guiding through this. What happens after you die? I call it the eternal moment between lives, and at that moment, like a dream, your entire life, all of it, as big and real and important as it seems right now, will begin to fade like a dream does in the morning. And at first it'll be a huge relief, right? Because you're free. You're free of the body. You're free of restrictions. You're free of limitations, right? So at that point, conditioning can't touch you anymore. You're no longer identified with the person any longer, so you cannot be influenced by conditioning. This is where you discover the samskaras. Now, just to make a long story short, or perhaps even longer, I don't want you to wait until then. I don't want to prepare you for the Bardo, because the exact same thing's happening right now. Right now, though, you've got conditioning of all this other stuff. But in inner reconciliation, that's the process by which we separate ourselves out from the conditioning, and we begin to start looking at things through the eyes of the self. And we see conditioning as conditioning. We also see how deeply ingrained it is into the whole body-mind mechanism, and how subtle it is, and how often we find ourselves re-identified, like a reflex, re-identified with the form, with the body-mind, with experience, with belief, with the past, with the future, right? But then there's this moment, oh wait, I identified again, we pull back. Where I call it inner reconciliation because I found you can't just force this stuff away. You have to instead reconcile with all of the energies of human life. So it ceases to be an enemy and begins to become a friend. It begins to support you in the process rather than fight you in the process. And this is my perception of why I created inner reconciliation, because I saw self-help, personal development, and most spiritual practices made this an enemy and tried to get rid of it. And after trying to do that myself for a very, very long time, I realized, good God, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because it's not an enemy. I've created my own enemy. But enough about that for right now. So what it comes down to is, you'll notice that what appears in each human life is our desire to constantly re-identify, has at its root something much deeper, something that transcends the life, that goes beyond an individual life. That sense of wanting to identify as someone or something is the samskara. That's the vasana. That need, that desire, that impulse, that reflex, that is where the attention goes. Because that is not you. But it is the subtlest of the subtle. Right? And it gives rise to everything else. That is the snake in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right? And so we become increasingly sensitive and increasingly nuanced and increasingly aware of every invitation to identify. And you see that every invitation you have to identify in anything in this life has at its root that one thing that is simply manifesting in all the different forms. I'm identifying as this or that, identifying as man, as a woman, as a white person, as an Asian person, as an Indian. Right? I'm identified as rich, as poor, as a Democrat, Republican, as a Buddhist, as a Christian. You notice, oh my God, they have at all of this what? The desire to be somebody. The desire to be. That's how Nisargadatta put it, the desire to be. They didn't say that you are. You don't need the desire to be. You already are. You'd have to be before the desire to be could arise. So that desire to be is not legitimate. It is the desire to be a form. This is what you let go of. This is what you recognize. And if you see that at the root of of all of those desires to be, to get, right? Because that's the desire. If I want to get something or I want to get rid of something, it's all around that, the identification. This works for me, this does not, right? There's that me is there. If you see that its root is something so subtle it can't be perceived except through the appearance of these of the samskaras, your attention just sinks more and more deeply into that which actually is. And that which is does not need a desire to be. Right? And again, there's the direct path. Foomp. Where does it start? I am. I exist. And I know it. Okay. Does that need a desire to exist? So any desire to be is artificial. It's laid on. It's an add-on. Hopefully that's a pretty in-depth discussion of it. Actually, it's kind of gone on for a while. So let me know how that worked for you, Brent. Let me scroll down to the bottom really quick here to see if there was any follow-up or anything. Okay, cool. So wonderful. Thank you, Brent. Rosario. Hello, GP and everyone from Madrid. Hello to you. Roberto, hi from Madrid, GP and the bunch. Roberto, I have come to realize that I'm running out of questions. Not because I know the answer, because there are no answers. Make sense? Oh, dear brother. Oh, you just can't believe what it means to me, for me to hear that. What then has been that has been a question, I guess. Big hug from home, Madrid. There are no answers because you are the answer. It's that simple. You are the answer. People look to me for the answers. I look to you as the answer. I am the answer to all questions. Of course, because what are all questions trying to do? They're trying to find out what is real. No matter how diluted they might be, no matter how materialistic they might be, right? At the root is what? I want to know who I am. I want to know what's true. Well, what's true? I am and I know it. Oh. That's the answer. I am what is. I'm the answer. I'm looking for what is. And it's me. Now, that doesn't mean questions won't arise. Fine points might need to be gathered, right? But this, you've found the mother lode. You've found the place from which the inquiry can emerge, from which all questions can be answered. Because trying to answer the question from some theoretical place or for some reference point that's based on a model rather than the reality is never going to get you to arrive at the answer. It can't. As well-meaning and as well crafted as it is, it can't arrive because it's based on a model, not on the reality. What's the reality? What is reality? Reality is what is. So how many times a day do you say, I am? Am, verb to be, what is? My God, I am what is. Now what is this isness? That becomes the burning question. Well, what am I? What is this I? Well, it's not the conditioning. I can see that. Conditioning is happening. It's not even the vasanas. That's happening. Everything I'm experiencing, all the motion, all the energy, all the forms are being seen by me. I can't see me, but I know that I am. What am I? Oh, Roberto, thank you so much, brother. A big hug from home, Seattle. Ava, namaste, G, and all Satsang friends. Good to be here again. Love having you here, Ava. Great topic today. John in Scotland, play on. In Sweden, right? Yeah, you're in Sweden. Hi, G. Nowadays, when I listen to love songs, they sound more and more like they are about obsession than true love. I must have you. I can't live without you. Well, I beg to differ. This was not the case before the non-dual understanding. I guess I'm not alone about this. Yeah. I could go off about the whole music industry, which has just been corrupted by money, basically, and it's always about the lowest common denominator. You know, you can find some really beautiful love songs by Leonard Cohen. Even some of the Beatles love songs went beyond that. And others as well that kind of escape me now, but that really speak to the depth of it, right? Rumi, my God, just read Rumi poems. Set some of those to music. But yes, it's all been trivialized. Music and the message of music has been trivialized. Especially in the 80s when it was a complete takeover by the suits. So that the art was gone. It was all. It was totally commerce. It was totally product. There was no more. There was no more interest in art at all. I mean, it had been about the money for a lot, but the money was based on the quality, and now they realized that they could basically manufacture, mass produce stuff that people liked. You know, when the Beatles were writing back in the 60s and before, there were 13 different song forms. And the Beatles used all 13, right? They're very creative in the different kinds of forms that they were used. By the 80s, it had been compressed to one. You'll still hear the others in folk music, roots music, bluegrass, but in terms of pop and most rock and country, it's down to one. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus. That's what it is. Even with rules, I remember going to songwriting events and the like when I was doing that a lot in the 80s. And oh yeah, it's got to be, here's your introduction, then it's got to be 14 seconds or 14 to 18 seconds to get to the hook. It had become so formulated. And so looking for the themes in terms of the lyric, it was always the song that could like grab, that had the hooky title, right, which would also be the chorus, would grab people in and be emotionally emotive, but not necessarily emotionally valuable. Same thing with music, same thing with the Christian church services. It all followed the same thing. If you listen to Christian music, it's formula from beginning to end. I can't listen to much of it. I have a few times just so that I'm knowledgeable, but it's the same kind of thing. And I also understand that there was really a concerted effort by the CIA and the military after the 60s to try to stomp out people like Bob Dylan. They didn't want any more people like Bob Dylan or Buffalo Springfield or the Beatles or Joni Mitchell or any of these people who are writing more powerful songs. They didn't want any of those to be emerging anymore. Now, I don't know if that's really true, it's just what I've heard, but I do know that both the CIA and the media were very involved in trying to get control over the media. And the military, not the media. The CIA and the military were very involved in trying to get control over that. Because the media, it was the media, the anti-war movement, the music that basically stopped the Vietnam War and American expansionism, and they certainly weren't going to have that. So that's just a little sideline on it. So you just see it. You know, when I lived in California in the 80s, that's when rap happened, right? And it was coming out of Oakland, which was not very far from where I lived, and also coming out of New York. And I remember hearing it on the radio at the time. And it was like, what is that? I heard it for the first time. It was like, wow! It was like beat poetry for the street, for for black people. It was just so powerful and political and commentary and raw. And then little by little over the years, I watched it get deteriorate and more about, booty and bitch and all that kind of stuff, to the point where the really political ones, there's a handful left, right, that have managed to survive. But the rest of it has just been completely deteriorated on purpose, as far as I can tell. Just go after the commercial aspect of it. So, you're absolutely right. A lot of it is just the worst and the most base of human emotions that that leaves the depth of what human beings are capable of completely out of the question, out of the discussion. So, thanks for that plan, Diane. Hello, Baba G. And everyone. That's what my granddaughter calls me, Baba. Good to be alive and here with you all. Yes, I agree. Hello, Melissa K. David and Elaine, good to see you. There's Ursula in Portugal. Hendrik in south of Germany. There's Input. Oh, Dale, right. Hope you're swell. I am. Thank you, Dale. Lisa Marie, sending love. Thank you, GP. Good to see you, Lisa. Marie, Carol, Robbie in Romania. There's Jonas, my awakened buddy, my awakened INFJ buddy. Carl, IGP, how do you truly forgive another? Then how to truly forgive yourself, especially if you stayed too long in a situation when part of you knew better. I have really struggled with this for a long time. Observing the one struggling doesn't seem to help. Thank you. Yeah. Well, it might not. So let's try another avenue, right? Look, until you're a Buddha, you are going to do stuff you regret. You're going to do something and go, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? How did that possibly happen? I'm awake, right? I'm studying this spiritual stuff. I've been working on my stuff, my shit for 25 years. It's going to happen, okay? Let me just put it up on your refrigerator. It's going to happen. Don't make a big deal out of it. It's easier to deal with something when you're expecting it than when you're not. When you set yourself up at, oh, this is the last time it's going to happen. Vigilance means you assume it's not. And if it is, great. But assume it's not. Now, one of the things I do, this is splitting hairs because I don't have control over the language, but I don't see forgiveness, I don't see forgive as a verb. I don't think forgiving is something you do. I think forgiveness is a state you arrive at. To try to forgive somebody is to try to overlook or reframe it or shift it around or sugarcoat it or, oh, it wasn't so bad, that doesn't help. No, it was that bad. They did do that, right? Now, and I did that, and I responded, and I was an ass, right? And I did something that I knew full well I shouldn't do. Well, let's just, instead of saying, how do I stop doing that, let's look at what happened. Exactly what happened. Right? Now, let me ask you a question. If you're swimming in the ocean and a shark comes up and bites your leg off, are you going to be offended at the shark? Or are you going to realize that's what sharks do? And I was ignorantly swimming in the waters where there were sharks. Now, if you purposely go in and swim with them, that's another thing. But it's different, but the same thing applies. And it applies whether you're forgiving yourself or forgiving someone else. Do you have to forgive the shark for being the shark? Oh, I forgive you. It's okay. You didn't mean it. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he meant it. It was very purposeful. He scouted you, he stalked you, and finally went in, took your leg. Hope you enjoyed the meal. Right? So the intention was there. Now, but here's another question. Was the shark conscious? Was he consciously doing it? Or was he simply acting out his instincts? Or, in the case of a human being doing something, were they conscious? Or were they simply acting out their conditioning unconsciously? This is the key to understanding forgiveness. And the beginning of perceiving that no matter what anybody does, however horrific it is, it's not conscious. Whenever we become conscious, really conscious of what we're doing, we don't do it. We can't. We can't any longer. If I become conscious of the pain I'm going to cause someone and myself, I can't do it. I can't purposely do it. Now you might say, well, there's plenty of people that cause pain to others. Yes. But here's how they see it, right? They don't see it as like, oh, I just can't wait to make them suffer. Right? Well, there are some. There are pathological narcissists that in fact do that. But even them, what's actually going on is, yeah, they're going to suffer, but I'm going to benefit. There is their unconscious. They think that somehow they're going to benefit from that. This applies to every company that makes and supplies weapons around the world. They believe that their profit is benefiting them, rather than basically digging them into a pit that will just take hundreds of lifetimes to get themselves out of. So when we see that it is unconscious, they are not responsible for their actions any more than that shark is. It is not a choice. The door opens to forgiveness. Oh my God. Father, forgive them. They have no idea what they're doing. I can't impute guilt to them. I can't impute guilt to the shark. I can't do it. There's nobody there to be responsible. Now this seems weird because we have this idea on a human level that everybody's morally responsible for their actions and therefore they need to be punished. Well, in terms of organizing a human society, yes, we all have to be responsible for our actions. And if we do something that is dangerous to society, society has the right to take us out of it, right? But the motive should be, yes, protect us from them, but don't just send them off somewhere to die. Redeem them, bring them back, right? Not be corrective, not punitive, right? This is, of course, what Christians miss when they talk about eternal damnation and hell and that somehow there's some offense so bad that you should be punished for eternity. It's an absurd idea, and if anybody stops for a moment and thinks about it, the absurdity, the cruelty, the barbarity of it becomes really obvious. So, while on one hand, I know that the sharks will bite me so I don't go swimming with them. On the other hand, there are people that I know will hurt me, and so I don't hang out with them. I don't invest in them. I don't trust in them. And of course, there's the times when you yourself have been the one who was not trustworthy, who betrayed that trust. Now, how do we get to that forgiveness, right? Well, because the exact same thing is true. The only way those things can happen is if you are in unconsciousness. You have slipped into the person. You have become the conditioning. It's the only way it can happen. If that doesn't happen, the other won't happen. So forgiveness is recognizing that underneath the conditioning is the unconditioned self. What I call original innocence. It is not guilty. It has been lost. It has been compressed. It is stuck to the side. And what's operating as the life is conditioning, which is completely unconscious. And just because I've become aware of this, and I'm waking up, and I've had great awakening experiences, and I've come to understand all of this non-dual stuff, does not mean that all of those impulses, all of those unconscious reflexive habits are gone. And this is why the process requires enormous humility, enormous vigilance, an enormous willingness to say, I could, and then be vigilant about trying to remain conscious, noticing when you fall into unconsciousness, when you fall into the conditioning, right? And never assume that you're not going to, right? Until you really know that you're not, until full realization has occurred, and there really isn't anybody left that can. There's no unconsciousness left, right? And no one who is unconscious. And that's the level at which you see that, how you put it, observing the one who is struggling. You can't observe the one struggling until your sense of self is thoroughly rooted in the pure observing, the pure isness. Then you can see the activity. But in fact, you are witnessing the one that's struggling. Let's just go there for a second so it doesn't seem to help. Okay, it may not be enough, right? You need some other stuff in order to actually disconnect and disconnect from the conditioning to the degree that it no longer can take over unconsciously, right? But are you not observing the struggling? Could you possibly say to me, observing the struggling doesn't help if you're not observing it? Okay, who's observing it? Right? Is unconsciousness observing it, or is consciousness observing it? Okay, consciousness, because obviously unconscious can't observe anything, right? It's not conscious. So let's look at the consciousness. Does consciousness do stupid things? Does consciousness cause pain? Or is the nature of consciousness love? These are just questions to ask. I'm not forcing an answer here, right? But continue to observe the one who is struggling. But don't just observe the one who is struggling with the attempt that it somehow get rid of it. Instead, make that the whole point. Okay, I'm going to observe it. The observing may or may not disconnect this conditioning so it doesn't happen anymore. But I want to observe it. I want to see what's in front of me right now. And right now I'm aware of the struggling. Well, what is that struggling? What is the one that is struggling? Okay, I'm aware of the struggle. What does that mean? Okay, I'm aware of there's a push and a pull. There's something that's wanting to pull me into a certain behavior or react to a certain behavior, and I'm aware of that. And that's happening. Right? I can see this action. I can feel the impulses in the body. Okay, now is there a person there who is struggling, or is there just the feelings and thoughts of struggle? Where's the person? Where's this one who is struggling? Now you're trying to observe the one who is struggling, right? I don't want you to just observe the one who's struggling. I want you to observe the nature of struggle, that which makes up the struggling, and see it so clearly that there isn't anyone struggling. There is only the feelings and thoughts and sensations we call struggling going on in the nervous system, but nobody's struggling. Are you following that? It's subtle, but I guess I'll let it go at that. So wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Carl. Hopefully that was a good discussion. Pavani, hello, sir. Welcome to you. She says hello to everyone. Peter in Italy. Thank you for whatever is going to appear during this great Satsang, GP, peace, love, and wisdom. Thank you, Peter. Robbie, how do you bless someone? Do you wish them to be in better circumstances? Or just see them as already being where they need to be now? Nothing being out of place? But will that be a blessing? If you really see it, and not just kind of hold to it as a nice idea, it will be the biggest blessing that there is. Because you will have literally created for them an environment that is free. You will not have any issue or discussion or problem with the circumstances that are going on, which means you won't be introducing any unnecessary conflict into the mix. Certainly they don't need any more the mix. If they're feeling that they're out of place, that things aren't right, their circumstances are horrible, they don't need somebody confirming that for them, right? As an observer, right? Now, when I do interreconciliation work with people, I do confirm it, but I'm working on a completely different level. I'm working with the nervous system, so it doesn't feel as if it's being put down, which gradually leads it to see that it isn't out of place, that this is the way it all works, that everything is okay. At its root, blessing someone is simply our deepest desire for the very best for them. Right? The modern day. It had much deeper, not deeper, it had a much different, a very actual practical meaning back, when you received your father's blessing. It also, meant you were regarded, you were an equal, you maybe got some land, right? So it had a different meaning. Now it's come to mean just kind of a recognition, right? It's just more of kind of a recognition, and it's okay. It's only kind of a forgiveness kinds of things. So, but let's look at what its root is. Its root is compassion. Right? My deep desire that everyone experience themselves in the best possible light, they are free of suffering, and that they're happy. May all beings in the universe and suffering and be happy. That's the desire. That's the blessing. May you be happy. May you be full. May your life be rich and full of everything that will bring you to the full understanding of who you are, which may not be what you want, but it's not up for me to say. Right? So I don't have to go through the effort of thinking, oh, everything's okay, they're in the right place, nothing's wrong. I have to go through all of that, right? Because that's just the truth. It's inherent in my blessing when I say, I just want for you the very, very best for you. Whatever that might look like. And I can't determine what that looks like. Right? If it doesn't look so good to you, if it's difficult, well, that's not necessarily bad. I can testify in my own life that the times that I thought that, God hated me were the times that the biggest blessings emerged, and the biggest unfoldments, the biggest realizations took place. Right? Because it's simply the nature. The ego wants to gravitate towards, I want nothing but pleasure and I want no pain. So when it's the ego, it says the perfect life is I get everything I want and nothing ever goes wrong. Right? But the ego is not interested in learning. It's not interested in really growing unless it's just going to grow in its in its acquisitions and in its own status. Right? So when things come along, adversity comes along, and you get the cosmic 2x4, the ego says, what went wrong? Well, what if nothing went wrong, right? What if this was the wake-up call? That boiling hot soup just got poured on your lap. That's a wake-up call, right? Whoa. When our sense of, when we, is talking earlier with Carl, when we recognize that we have just transgressed our own rules, that we have just been exactly what we have vowed not to be, and that we have labored our life to uncover, right? That's the cosmic 2x4. That's God saying, dude, you're off track. You've missed the mark, right? Come on. But remember, it's always punitive. It's never corrective. Or excuse me, it's always punitive. That's the Christian view. It's never punitive. It's always corrective. Reality never punishes. It'd be punishing itself. It's the wonderful, beautiful, loving truth that brings everything to itself. Separate out which is not it, and what is not it isn't real. It's not you're losing something real. You're losing what never was true in the first place. That's why it's truth. right? You're losing the falsities, right? And so you're simply holding the most open, loving, compassionate environment that you possibly can. And combine that with a willingness to be with somebody as they transition through, as they begin to let go, as they recognize they have to let go, is living that blessing. That's a lived compassion. And of course, the more you understand that you are where you are, the more equanimity you have established in yourself about your own experiences, the more you can do that for others. You realize that it's the case. You also realize, because you yourself have agonized we're having to let something like that go, that you know exactly what they're going through and how hard it is, right? It's all this beautiful picture of the kind of compassion that really is actively engaged in the loving way in life. It is not aloof. It is not distant. It is a love that is more than willing to get down into the dirt and roll around. Jesus hung out with those that the upper crust in society were just offended by. The publicans, the wine bibbers. I mean, he turned the water into wine, for crying out loud. If he really did that, right? I'm sure it was good wine, right? He hung out with the tax collectors. He had no judgment of the people. He blessed them. He blessed them. He blessed them. He blessed them. He was a good example of that. And at the same time, the view he held of them was of that original innocence. He never lost that. He saw them for who they were, which allowed him to get down into the mud with them. So hopefully that answers it for you, Robbie. So go, bless everyone, and be blessed. Patricia, oh, hello, Patricia, who just the success of your musical. Congratulations. I've been watching that with so much joy and happiness for you. Wow, very good. I don't know if it's still running. Anybody's in Los Angeles, you can put here, if it's still running, where they can go to find out about it. Patricia's been a student of mine for a very long time, musician, a lyricist, and she and another person have written a whole play about I forgot the name now. I'm so sorry. I forgot the name. I'm not in Los Angeles, so I can't go say it. Being Elizabeth. But anyway, tell everybody who it is. Adult Swim Bumps. Hello, Adult Swim Bumps. Hello and thank you. I'm suddenly aware and frequently bewildered when I wake up in the morning. So being suddenly aware does seem to be possible in my experience. Beautiful. Yes. There's actually a moment every morning when we wake up. There's actually a little process that takes place. When we go from sleep, it's a transition between either the dream world, right, which is not the same as this one, or deep sleep, which has no content whatsoever. And you're not actually waking back up into this world. It's that this world, which is also a dream, is now replacing the dream world of sleep. And it happens like, the first thing is the emergence of the feeling, I am, followed by a body, followed by inner world. Sometimes it happens very, very quickly. Sometimes it's a little slower. There's just this, I am somebody in the world, right? But sometimes you can just, all of a sudden, it just kind of stops and there's just the sense of being, this little place in between. Even before the I am happens, there's just this aware. And of course, that awareness is there all the time, because it has to be there, otherwise you wouldn't have a dream world. And even deep sleep you wouldn't have, because there'd be nothing aware of it, right? Which is simply the awareness of no content. There's nothing there. So you're not there, the world's not there, nothing's there, because there's no thoughts. It's just pure being. You go there every night. Sometimes, and of course that same thing now, and content now begins to fill up, dream stuff, and then it might fade out again, back into deep sleep, and that happens several times during the night, a bunch of times during the night, until finally all of that fades away, and the waking dream appears. But you haven't moved. You're still in the same place. The awareness, remember the very thing I opened with is the direct path of I am, and I know that I am. I am aware of being aware, right, is always there, right? And everything passes in front of it, be it deep sleep, which is no content, the dream world, which is its own set of rules and stuff, or this the waking dream, right? And so, yes, there can be times at any point along there where there's just the direct insight, the self-realization of the awareness. Just me. Without the words. Not the words, I am what is, but just the I am what is. I am the isness. Without any of those words. The sudden. And that's what you've experienced. And thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you very much. Adult Swim Bumps, like your name. Sean, I'm afraid of forgetting, so I scramble to document and remember and build a story I can share later, either to help people or just to have a fun story to brighten the mood. Is this holding me back? No. No. It is much more dangerous to be afraid of something holding you back than to be doing the thing you think might be holding you back. Because that thought is much more powerful than the thing. Otherwise, it's just the thing happening in your life. If that thought, this is holding me back, never occurred to you, would you be concerned? Right? Would you see some reason to edit it or judge it or change it, or right? So it's just something that's happening. There was a period of time when every inspired thought I had, I wanted to write about it. And I kept it for years. I mean, I literally had boxes and boxes of notebooks from when I would just write, thinking, oh, someday I'll go back. And a couple of times I go back, and there were some good ideas there. And finally one day I said, I don't need this. And I don't know how many boxes of notebooks just went right into this, right into recycling. It's like, oh. And that whole kind of thing went. And every now and then something will come to mind, and I'll make a voice memo that I will then actually go back and turn into a blog or something like that. And that's okay. Or a story or a great metaphor or so, oh, wow, that's a great way of expressing it. You know, as a teacher, I'm looking for ways to express this kind of stuff. So let go of the idea that it's holding you back. Right? The idea of being held back is the only thing that can hold you back. What can hold you back from being what you already are? Right? Remember, the idea I can be held back comes from the notion that you're some person trying to get to awakening. Right? You are the awakening. Right? You don't have to get anywhere. That whole thought that I'm somebody trying to get to it, believed, right, makes you experience as if you were somebody that had to try to get to it. Oops, I keep doing that. I keep kicking the camera. I'm sorry. So drop that idea. I am the self. I already am what I'm seeking. There's just all these thoughts that say that I'm not. And this is just another one that's snuck in, right? That says, oh, I'm doing all of this stuff. Oh, is this holding me back? Who's this me that could be held back? It's got to be a sense of self that is not the self. That is somebody on the road. I'm going to be the self someday. I'm close. I'm so close. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Where? Now, the notion that something had held me back, I'm somebody, I'm almost there. Does that exist outside of something aware of that? Can all of those thoughts, do they think themselves? Do they appear on their own? Is there another self that's aware of those? Or are they just something appearing in the very thing those thoughts say they're seeking? You are the self. You're already that. How can you be held back from what you already are? Right? It's only a thought. Now, a thought, it's like a small thought. It's like your thumb can block out the whole sun, right? Just, oh my God, it's just my thumb. But to whom would the sun be blocked out? That which is obstructing God must be God, right? I'm looking at, oh God, there's this veil in between me and consciousness. Well, what's aware of the veil except consciousness? So the veil's in consciousness. You are that. You already are that. It's that simple truth the mind cannot accept. Oh, no, right, yeah, I know I am. But I got to realize it, right? Who's that I? What I has to realize it? Right? What I is on the path. It's the wave traveling the whole world looking for the ocean. Lovely, 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 lovely. I love you, Sean. Make a pathway, Louise. Hello, make a pathway. Or Louise, whichever you like to be called. Oops. Jumped ahead, jumped ahead, jumped ahead, jumped ahead. Wow. Okay, there we are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello from sunny northern Sweden. Hello, Barbara. Good to see you. Merck, good evening from sunny Sweden. When action seems voluntary, I notice that that just means that the action is preceded by a thought about it, and that I did it. No prior thought equals just happened. Yes. All action, it's just an idea that the action was voluntary. The action happened, or the volition, even the start of the action happened, and then the thought comes, I'm doing it, or I did that. And if you look, that's actually what happens. Right? When we make a choice, the whole idea of free will and I'm choosing, right? A choosing thought arises, it gathers momentum, energy starts collecting around it, and a couple of thoughts later we go, I chose that, which is just another thought. Right? Now, and it's subtle and it's tricky because the I it's referring to is the I that we have consistently identified with. I chose that, which is just a thought, but it's referring to the sense, the I that's identified with the body. The real I was aware of the choosing thought arising, was aware of all the energy gathering around it, and aware of the thought that came a couple thoughts later that says, I chose that. That's the true I that's been there and aware the whole time. Because if that I wasn't there, that is, if you weren't there, you could not have seen even the choosing thought emerge. So now what's happening is, through this self-inquiry, you've come to see, because you're so identified with the I before, whenever that thought came, I did this, I chose this, I'm going here, I want this, we were so identified with that I, we thought that it was referring to us, when in fact it was referring to the concept I, the model I, which is simply an image in the mind, and not actually to the true I. But because the true I, you, was identified with that I, you believed it to be you. And therefore you went along with it. But now, through the inquiry and this kind of inner work, you've seen, oh my God, I'm not that I, right? I'm actually seeing this whole process play out. And the mind is quite capable of using the word I, but referring to something that is not I. It is something that is simply another thought. Oh, it's so incredible to grasp, right? And so liberating. The I that you had come to believe was you was never you. So there isn't anything voluntary because there's no I. There's no actor. As Buddha put it, he said, there's a road, there's a walking on the road, but there's no traveler. There's simply the witness of what is happening. Right? I won't get into what it is that's actually happening, but it's not the action of an eye. It is simply the nature of the self, known to the self. And so, in a very real sense, what you're experiencing is simply the self, and you are the self experiencing itself. And part of that is this notion of an I, which isn't a problem when you're not identified with each other. Oh yeah, of course, the I, the mind creates an I. It has to create an I. If I go to the restaurant, they say, "What would you like?" I have to be able to say, "I would like the tofu salad." Right? I can't go, "Oh, there is no I." There is an I, and this I plays through all of the various piece parts, all of the different functions, all the different thoughts and ideas and sensations, and in so doing, for a moment, takes on the form of an I and then drops it. Right? This is what we call the ego. It refers to that I, but we're always referring to the true I. But in common language, refer to that which they think is some other I. I'm always the I. You're always the I, the only I. Right? Ah, beautiful. And then there's Plan saying something in Swedish. And so did Merck. Thank you, guys. There's Pavel. Thank you for talking about that. You're very welcome, Pavel. There's Dale to follow Roberto. I don't have many questions right now. Beautiful. All questions are just a way for the mind to understand, but the answer is already within. You are the answer. Yes, you are the answer. Yes, I am the answer. I am what I've been seeking. What you are looking for is where you are looking from. Hello, Wooter. Could you do a scan of the posts and then answer one instead of going one by one? I've tried that. It doesn't really work. And I kind of prefer to give it in the order that people ask them. And I invite people to do it. I invite it to people to do it as they come. I mean, if I was doing it live, I wouldn't even know what the questions are going to be. I would just pick somebody based on my own feeling about it. So I have actually tried that and it doesn't work for me. So getting on late. Had to update. Oh, hello, Mary. Good to see you. Tommy T. Have you read the Ashtavakragita? I have indeed. Yes. Marvelous. Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. The Ribhu Gita is my current favorite. Which I have been reading, which I'm actually well, I'm not. I'm going to do a workshop and just discuss the Ribhu. Obviously, there's way too much to go into it in just one workshop, but I don't think at this point I'm going to turn it into a series. I think I'm just going to go through and get the most salient points. But the Ashtavakra is the same. I mean, they say what I'm saying. So I am consistent with that message, as are all non-dual teachers. I have some additional language that they didn't have to talk about psychological conditioning and things like that. Some other words that they didn't have. Although Buddha used the term projection in the Ribhu Gita, I can't remember in the Ashtavakra. He does speak about the screen of the self, the Shiva screen. Doesn't use the word projection, but he refers to the screen, right? He uses the term screen, and that's a very old writing. Refers to that screen as being the screen of the self, right? And so which is a relatively modern. It seems to be a modern term. Maybe it was the way it was translated, but. Maybe they did have some similar idea back then, but yeah. But yes, I have, yes. Grateful to be here today. Thank you, Babaji. Hit the like button, please. Such beautiful teachings. Yeah, hit the like button. Blessings to you too, Francis. There's Kingdale Clark. Hello to you. Oh, jumped ahead again. Boy. Lose the question. Forgive one another. Sometimes it just jumps around. Okay, there we are. Mary, is the reason that we still fall into unconsciousness because there is still resistance? Well, it actually goes both ways, Mary. There is, most accurately, resistance and unconsciousness are one. When there is consciousness, there's no resistance. So if you feel resistance, don't think of it as pulling you into unconsciousness. Instead, think of, I'm aware of resistance, right? Which means I'm conscious of it. Okay. Now, what does the resistance want me to do? What is the resistance point of view as to how I should be responding to what it is resisting, right? When you see that, you go, okay, the resistance is a trigger. It wants me to react to something in a pre-described way. If I do, like I have in the past, I'm reacting unconsciously. I'm reacting simply out of conditioning. And for most of people, still, and for many people, and for all of us here, at least for some part of our lives, that's what we did. Awakening began to take place, and now we begin to realize there is resistance. Now, if I act out the way the programming has dictated I'm supposed to react to that particular event that triggered the resistance, I will be acting unconsciously, right? And that's all unconsciousness. It doesn't mean I've zoned out somewhere on a park bench. It means that the programs are acting on my behalf. I'm not consciously doing any of this. I'm not consciously engaged in the process. I'm like the shark. I'm just eating the seal, right? Or the dog. I'm just cowering. I'm just begging. I'm just going to the programming. Now, at first, we can become aware of that and really don't have much authority over it. Our awareness has not matured yet enough. It's not grown up yet enough that it can stand on its own 2 feet and begin to intervene, right? And to not react to it. There's a point at which we come to we see the trigger happening, and the only thing we can do is resist the impulse, right? There's the good use of the word resistance, to do what the resistance is telling us to do, right? Because we know, we don't know what to do. We don't know what the conscious way to act would be. We simply don't know. But we do know that this isn't it, right? And so we simply sit in between. It's a very uncomfortable place to be, I totally admit. It's not where you like to be, where I'm not acting out the way I would unconsciously, but that impulse, strong impulse to act out is still there. This is where the strength is gained. And little by little, because I'm not acting it out, the trigger is not being fulfilled, and that process is what begins to cut that circuit. And little by little, the impulse will get weaker and weaker and weaker to the point where that trigger simply doesn't happen anymore. You are free of it. Now notice, you don't have to choose a different path, because the moment that energy starts fading and you're less and less, there's less and less for you to have to deal with, the more of that energy just starts moving into the creative channels. And you'll find yourself spontaneously acting in ways that you wouldn't have thought of before. Right? So I'll leave it at that. So because I've got a lot of questions today, it appears. Yeah. Oops. Ashtavakragita, Babaji. There was Mary. Good. Okay. So That's a very succinct kind of breaking down of the process and how it happens. And see, you're kind of resisting the resisting, but you're not. You're simply not going along with the way the program has been programmed to do, and that will be uncomfortable. But that, it means you're already conscious. So you don't interpret, okay, there's still resistance there, I must be unconscious. No. If you are unconscious, you wouldn't be seeing it as resistance, you'd just be acting it out. Right? You're conscious because you know it's resistance. Right? So it can't make you unconscious. Right? I hope you follow that. It's very important. Melissa K, hoping for a word. Daily life here, and now my basic needs are falling away. Feeling or experiencing the emotions of fear, anger, sadness, shame. Guess I fell back into the person. Well, rather than going, oh, I fell back into the person, oh, I blew it, which is also the person. Oh, I should have been better, I'm really missing it, also the person. Instead, take a nice step back, take a deep breath, go, okay, what's happening? What's going on here? I'm seeing my basic needs falling away, and I'm feeling a reaction to that. There's something going on in my whole energy system. There's fear, there's anger, there's doubt. It's resisting a transition that's taking place in me, a transition I actually want. And so, okay, well, what's going to happen? Well, yeah, there's a lot falling away. A lot of stuff that I was used to, a lot of stuff my whole nervous system was really accustomed to and dependent on. Well, yeah, it's going to feel afraid, it's going to feel grief, it's going to get sad, it's going to get anger, it's going to get grabby, I want more and more, okay? So don't say, oh, I fell back into the person. You'll only fall back in the person if you re-identify with it. If you don't re-identify with it, you're just, oh, there it is. So forget the person. Remember, the person doesn't exist. It's a thought, an idea that has been projected on the functioning of the nervous system. So just witness the functioning of the nervous system. What's the functioning of the nervous system? A transition in life, especially if it's a significant one, is going to be met with resistance that takes the form of fear, anger, grief, sadness, disappointment, resentment, right? Because that's what it does. This is all the way in which the nervous system attempts to keep change from happening, because its underlying assumption is change is never good. It is safer to stay where I am, where I know I can take care of stuff, than to run the risk that I'll go someplace that I won't be able to stay safe, even if it looks better. No thanks, I'll pass. But of course you're sitting there going, no, we're not going to pass on this. Boom, there's the conflict that we have to reconcile. So how do you reconcile with it? You go, oh yes, of course you feel fear. Of course you're angry about it. Yeah, of course you are. Yeah. But work with me here. This is where we're headed. I'm not letting go of this. And it's, what do you mean? You got a little argument eventually, because you're the visionary, you're the one in the driver's seat, you're the master of this territory. You're just gently but firmly going, yes, this is where we're headed. You're the CEO of this company. Eventually, okay, it'll drop instead of the fear, it's go, okay, how can I make this safe? Instead of anger, it's go, okay, what can I get? Where's the benefit in this? It'll actually start doing its own transformation, simply because you are maintaining a vision and at the same time creating a safe environment for it to respond to. And that's all it's looking for. It's looking for this guarantee of safety. The more safety you give it, the more it will kind of drop all of its resistances. But never, ever, ever do you actually become the person. So if you identify with somebody fighting all of these things to try to get ahead, right, what it really is just another aspect of the conditioning trying to stay the same that you have identified with. And that's the person. Remember, the person isn't a thing. It's not a reality. There's nobody there. It is us projecting upon what in fact is mindless, insentient functioning, the sense of a self. And so it appears to be what it isn't. The only self there is you. Does that help, Melissa? SS, one energy directing all our bodies, which makes sense of non-doership. Yeah. Every action, whether it be the growing of hair, the digesting of food, the spinning of a galaxy, or the emerging of a thought, is a cosmic event. There's no person, therefore no personal events. Everything that happens in your life is not brought about by you, because there's no you to bring it about. Everything is the universal functioning. And the universe, upon the universal functioning, the universal being has projected itself. In fact, the universal functioning is the functioning of the universal being. It is all one thing. No thought you have is yours. Every thought you have is a cosmic event. Look, where did the thought come from? You didn't make it. If you made it, you could remember yourself sitting there making it. It just happened. Where does it go after it's stopped? After it's ended? Does it go somewhere? It just disappeared. Right? It's a cosmic event. Do you know what your next thought's going to be? I sure don't. My next gesture, my next feeling, my next sensation, the next thing that appears to me, I don't know any of that, right? Which means I'm not making any of it happen. It's a cosmic event. It's just happening. Then it happens, and then there's another cosmic event that takes place, and go, I made that thought. That's my thought, which is simply also just another cosmic event. You didn't create the ego either. You don't have an ego that you had that somehow you're stuck with. It's just a thought, and you didn't make it. You didn't make any of this. It all spontaneously arose, including the thought of I. And you are that from which it has arisen. Remember? It arose, right? Which is an appearance. It's secondary. It's after the fact. It's the result of. It is the action of. It is the dynamic aspect of. Of what? Of what is. Which is not an aspect or an appearance of anything else. It is what is. And what is that? What is? I am. Oh. Me. I am that. That's the nature of non-doership. There is no doer. Not somebody who stops doing. There isn't. And there never was. It's all a cosmic event. Hello, Veronica. Hello to you. Anja, love Satsang. Love from Germany. I do too. Barbro. Oh, you guys talking in Swedish. That's not fair. Evening, Susanna. Carl, thank you so much, GP. You made the one struggling disappear. I had missed some of the subtleties. You're like a wizard of consciousness. I should, I'm going to have to get a hat. I'm going to have to grow one of those big beards. They're so annoying. I've had beards. It's like, God, please. I'll stay away from the sharks. Good idea. Good idea. Dave and Elaine. The waves... Elaine. Elaine. How come I want to say Elaine. Elaine. The waves of the universe rise and fall as they will. You have nothing to lose or gain. You are the ocean. Ah, Ashtavakragita. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. The Abhijut's another one. The Heart Sutra. The Diamond Sutra. My favorite sutra is the Lankavatara Sutra. They all say it. I mean, this is the truth. This is the truth. You're home. The seeking can stop. The energy of the seeker will persist for a while. But just know that that's all it is. And that, too, was a cosmic event. Just a momentary blip. A ripple in the ocean of limitless being. Positive Patty. What is the name of the book Ribhu Gita, Ribhu Gita, Gita, Ribhu. Somebody can type it in there, if you would. You can get it on, let me email the best place to get it, because there are several different translations, and I think the one I have is, well, it's certainly one I like the best. It's the same one that Samanari Jayasara used in her recordings. So I can't remember who it is that produced it, but it's the one I like the best. So Ribhu Gita, although I suppose they're all okay. It's the essence of Ribhu Gita. It's not the whole Gita, as far as I understand. It's a condensation of it that was highly recommended by Ramana Maharshi, which is why it's so highly admired. And matter of fact, they even, in the Ribhu Gita, the version I have, they dedicate it to him. So, Sissy, hello Sissy, hello. Good evening. When someone prays, are they actually praying to themselves? Do we have the power to answer our prayers for whatever we are praying about? Oh, wow. This is a subtle thing, right? Because if the sense I have of myself is this limited, struggling, unhappy, trying to get something person, then obviously that's nobody worth praying to. That's nobody worth consulting with. That's nobody worth getting self-help from. So I always say self-help always seemed a bit strange. Wait a minute, I'm messed up, and so I'm going to the messed up me to get help for me? What? So pray to the highest sense you have of what divinity is. And so I don't want to confuse people with the non-dual, it's all myself, I am the one and all that, because you can see I take on a lot of time being really meticulous about the words and what these things mean and what I'm referring to when I point to them, right? And I do that because to avoid the confusion, because if it's just taken superficially, or if it's just kind of put out there without this kind of clarification, there's a tendency for us to then think, oh, the self, but that self be this person. We have to see through the finite sense of self, the sense of being a separate person, to the infinite self that is beyond it all. Now, you are that infinite self, but that infinite self is not who you think you are. So, it is far better to pray to the higher self than to think you're praying to yourself as some kind of an idea you learned because it seems to be consistent with non-dual teaching. Right? Pray to the highest sense you have of truth, the highest sense you have of love, the highest sense of a higher self. If that for you is God, or if that for you is Jesus Christ, or if that for you is Krishna or Buddha, then pray to them, right? And ask them to open your eyes and bring you to a deeper understanding. There's nothing wrong with that. Because whatever we pray to, even though it feels like it's separate from us, is really the truth of being, right? And what we're seeking is the truth of ourselves, not a different version of ourselves, not trying to take this human sense of a person and amplify it so it becomes a God. That's what people have done. That's what Yahweh is. That's what many of especially the Abrahamic religions that spring from Yahweh God, it is a personification of the attributes of a particular culture. And within that culture appeared all sorts of people that were seeking the truth, and if you found it, there are some stories in there. But for the most part, it's a cultural God that represents certain, that is an amplified person. And not the best person either, right? So pray to the highest sense of yourself and pray the highest prayer, which is, Lord, bless me. Right? Bring me to a higher understanding of myself. Make me more compassionate, more loving, more wise, more slow to anger, more willing to listen. These are the highest prayers for which God is a sucker. She cannot turn that down, right? You start asking, I want a new Maserati, I want more money in my bank account, which is okay too. You can ask for that as well, right? But, on that score, God's going to go, well, okay, I need a little bit of maturity here. So I'm not going to hand that out right away. Let's play with this for a little bit. But if you ask for humility, for wisdom, for love, for compassion, to be a blessing and a benefit to all mankind, God goes, oh, God, all right, I can't turn that down. Nothing, you got me. I'm a sucker for that. So, yeah, let's not compromise this, okay, sissy? Yeah? Don't think of it, I'm answering my own prayers. It's not, it really isn't that. The heart that is praying is reaching for something outside of itself. Eventually it becomes one with the object of its adoration and the object of its prayer. But that's the process, right? So let that happen, and instead just reach out and offer the purest prayer your heart can offer to the highest sense of good, the highest sense of the self that you can imagine, whatever that looks like to you. Thank you for asking that question. It means a lot to me. Wonderful satsang ji, wonderful topic, beautifully expressed. Thank you. No way, Matt. What did your realization look like? Was it sudden and your knowing was just there? No. It came in waves, right? Over many years, right? Starting with a profound insight that where I saw, as I've told you all, when I'm talking about forgiveness, right? When you recognize the conditioning as conditioning, for me it was a recognition. It was completely unsought. I didn't want it. I was a rock and roll drummer. That's all I wanted to be, but I was absolutely miserable. I hated myself and everything. And in the middle of this revelation came, and I saw this absolutely pure, pristine being, and it said, "That's you," and it brought me to tears. It still does. It was just this enormous light that took place, but I did not yet. This was 1971, right? People didn't know about any of this stuff. People weren't talking about conditioning. I'd never heard the word yoga or awakening or any of that. I'm a kid in Illinois, right? And so, while I could see clearly the separation between me and what at the time I just saw as pollutants, I didn't really know what they were. It was a very long time. First, there were just waves of for years it was just inspiration after inspiration. I was just in a constant high of inspiration. It's gone on. It finally, maybe in the 90s, it kind of settled down, right? Maybe the late 80s, it kind of settled down, and there was a bit more normalcy in my life. Well, I was just constantly inspired, but I was at the same time challenged by the fact that while I was, on one side I was talking to God all the time, and the other side I couldn't tie my own shoes. I was a dysfunctional human being. My marriage was a wreck. I couldn't make a living. I lived in the middle of this, right? And there was a lot that had to be purged. There was a lot of stuff that had to fall away. But then there were these spectacular realizations, and some underlying assumptions that I thought that somehow the realization was all that was necessary, right? And little by little, I began to understand this thing about the nervous system and conditioning. I used those terms, right? I saw that none of that existed a long time ago, but that the vision of it not existing had zero impact on the functioning of my life. And so it all had to, I guess you could call it, be integrated. A transformation needed to take place, right? So that all of life, that what I called life, the body and the mind and all of that, needed to be transformed. It all needed to be brought into the realization. I was still ignorantly seeing it as something that was outside and had to be gotten rid of. Now, it wasn't like this horrible thing I had to get rid of. It was an illusion I had to get rid of, right? I didn't realize that I was trying to throw out, I wasn't throwing out the illusion. I was trying to throw out what was in fact the manifestation of reality. I didn't yet grasp that the illusion was my perception of it. I had bundled them all together. And little by little, that started to fall apart. It took me through the realm of learning about conditioning, about psychology, about Gestalt, about therapeutic processes, about a whole bunch of different things. Finally, it led me to the door of Advaita Vedanta and Zen, which after a very short period of time just went and I finally saw the nature of the self. And at that point, it was the wisdom that I impart now. The non-dual wisdom became just crystal clear. But that said, I am still, like everybody else, dealing with the conditioning, the vasanas, the stuff that's going on. I do not claim to be a Buddha. I remain vigilant, right? I am still capable of falling into the reflex, and I did it just recently, and quite embarrassed about it. I went, oh my God, I did it. It's eating the humble pie. So I can say with authority, just don't assume, right? The truth of the matter is that those stories of those momentous one and done awakenings are not real. That's the Hollywood version of it. The reality is they happen over time. They're a gradual thing. Eventually you see that the time doesn't exist, that it was all a dream, so it was all spontaneous, and the awakening never happened at all. But that's very, very far down the line. Even someone like a Ramana or a Steve Jourdain, just total awakening all at once. What happened in prior lives? Right? What was it that built up to that? We just simply have no way of knowing. Except this. Your story, wherever you are right now, is the Buddha story. At some point you look back and go, yeah, it all makes sense. Just like Buddha did, just like Siddhartha. Buddha looked back, oh, it makes perfect sense. You know, the way of upbringing, the experience, all the things that happen, seeing in suffering, purging himself, going through incredible deprivation, almost killing himself. Oh, all of that was it. That was the awakening story. That was the Buddha story. You are living your Buddha story. So enjoy it. Melissa, is it enough to know I am higher self? Thank you, G. You're welcome. Yes, actually it is. It is enough with faith. We're cultivating the conviction, right? I know I'm my higher self, and yet you're confronted constantly with reflexes and stuff. Oh my God, why did I do that? With doubts. Am I really the higher self? Well, if you're the higher self, you'd be doing this, this, and this. You know, that was the first temptation of Christ. Well, if you're the Son of God, look, you're hungry. It's been 40 days. Turn the stones into bread. Have a meal. It'll be great. I'll bring some wine and cheese. He was too smart. He was too wise. He saw what that was. He was being invited very subtly to agree to a separation which he had already seen clearly was not real. Right? And yet there was a struggle for him. It's depicted as if it was a temptation. As a cross, it was a temptation. Beautiful movie, The Last Temptation of Christ. There were struggles there. The Garden of Gethsemane. So those things were coming up. So it was a conviction, right? This is the true meaning of faith. I know it to be true, but I've got all of this stuff going and telling me it isn't. I'm not that yet. I can't get there yet. There's all these doubts. Okay, even those, right? I am that, even if there's doubt. I am that, even if I forget. So yes, but it's not just the thought, oh, I am that. It is the cultivating of the conviction of it. Right? Ribhu Gita talks a lot about that. But it even says that it is enough to know that you are self. But abide in the conviction that I am that Brahman awareness self, that I am the perfect Shiva being. Abide in the conviction of it. And that conviction stands in the face of all of the contradictions that are coming, whether that seem to be coming from the outside world or coming from your own mind, because your mind does doubt it. No, you're not. You can't be, because the mind's version of you is not you. And that's its reference point, and it doesn't want to let go of that reference point until you see through the whole bloody mess. Thank you for that, Melissa. I hope that was help. Joseph, my goodness. No doers, just the doing. Yes, just the happening. It's all just happening. But the happening is so beautiful, right? The happening is not arbitrary, right? It's not random. It's not chaotic, right? There's nobody doing it. There's no intelligent design, but it's incredibly intelligent. Form is everywhere. There's no chaos, right? Everything has its form. Every shape, however chaotic it may look, like a cloud, has its purpose. Like a nebula, right? It's a birthplace of stars. That's what it's supposed to look like. It looks like just this big mass. Now there's no order or form. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. So, there's nobody doing anything, right? But you could say that, there's just the doing, right? Or the happening. The doer is imagined, but nobody denies the happening, right? That's self-evident, right? It's just the spontaneous arising, the spontaneous manifestation, the spontaneous action of the self pondering the self delighting in itself. And in fact, you delighting in every word you hear that goes, oh God, that's so true, is the self delighting in the self. You are the self delighting in the truth. Because who else would be there? There's not another self delighting in it. There's not, unconscious can't, unawareness can't delight. Right? Only consciousness can. And consciousness, this is the exploration of the direct path. Is that consciousness individualized? Is it localized? Or is it the consciousness? Look for yourself. I can tell you, I'll give you the punchline. Spoiler alert. It's the consciousness. Beautiful. Thanks, Joseph. Would you please send an email to all of us with a list of all the Gitas you recommend? Thanks. I will. If you're not on my mailing list, just go to gpwalsh.com. Right up at the top, you can download an ebook, and then you'll be on my mailing list. Simple as that. Beautiful satsang, GP. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for a lot, GP. Thank you. Thank you. From John. So special, this satsang. I am you. Oh, thank you. It's beautiful. Says, yes, got it. Nothing has purpose. Nothing has purpose, and everything has purpose. Nothing has a purpose outside of simply being what it is. What's the purpose of this flower? I mean, I put it to a purpose, right? I have a relative purpose for it. You know, I bought, somebody cut them out, sent them, so I could put in a little thing and make a nice little pretty scene, you know, behind me. You know, it's really nice, right? And so, but that flower doesn't have the purpose of being in mine. I mean, that's not, it grew, oh, I can't wait to get in GP's, well, it's not even a vase, it's a jar that I had. I can't wait to do that. What is the flower's purpose? To be the flower. What's its nature? It just grows. That's its purpose, right? if you think of purpose, we have a finite, a relative purpose, right? The purpose of me doing this is to inspire you, right? You know, that's my purpose. That's my purpose for being here. When this is done, I have a different purpose, right? All sorts of things. So purposes come and go. It's not like there is no purpose, right? It's just there's no ultimate purpose. If you look for an ultimate purpose, it's not something external. There's not some big thing my life is to serve. It's just this moment. But what is the purpose of being? Well, there is no purpose to being. If there was a purpose to existing, it would mean there was something outside of it, right, that needed to create it to serve a purpose. Right? So being has no purpose. It doesn't need one because it had no beginning, it has no end. So it just is. And when it just is, it doesn't serve anything other than itself, which means it has no purpose. But within it, it allows for infinite expression of purpose. And isn't that beautiful? Isn't that just perfect? And on that note, so special, yes, beautiful, nothing else. Thank you to all of you. All right. Thank you all for being here. Just remember, go to what is. Abide with what is. I am, and I know that I am. Just become curious. This knowingness. What is this? I am this, obviously. Without that, I couldn't possibly exist. So then, what is this? Is it limited? Is it bounded? Does it have a beginning? Does it have an end? Is it personal? Is it limited to a person? Does everybody have their own little knowingness? Or is there one universal knowingness? Is there one universal being of which everything is the cosmic event? Ask, inquire, keep pushing that, keep nudging, poking that bear. Love you all. Namaste.